And since we're on the subject of homes and houses, homes have energies. You know, the land has energy, as we know. The land itself has energy. But the house, even though it's material, it still holds energy. It still has its own energy. So it's very important to make sure that you are very mindful and aware of the energies. Mindful and aware of the energies of the land you live on, as well as the house you live in, the property you live in. It's a very important, thing. Okay. I've helped a family member of mine. They dealt with some really serious stuff in regards to spirits being in their space, and I helped them to basically escort those energies out, those spirits out of their space. What I will say is something that people question a lot, and what I've seen happen in real life. Should you have welcome mats? No. Like, if you have a mat that says welcome, get rid of it. Like, get rid of it. If I know that sounds so simple, but it's like you don't want to welcome certain energies into your space. Another thing is so don't have anything like saying welcome in front of your house. I know that might sound cold, but it's the truth. Like, don't have anything saying welcome. Like, if you know you don't want everybody to feel welcomed up in your space, that's that. Like, that's for spirits. It makes me think of like Halloween, when they used to put a candle in the old jack-o'-lantern, like in the pumpkin. And when people used to light candles by their windows, or put light by their windows to let the spirits know that they're welcomed in, or that they're waiting up for them. I forget the full story, but it's like you don't want every spirit to come to your dwelling, your home, your temple. It's like, no, you're not. Technically, you aren't welcomed unless I specifically called you here. So just be mindful of that, okay? That is something that I've known just from experience. It's something that people easily overlook. Just don't have a welcome mat. There are other ways of creating a warm and peaceful environment without saying welcome or hello, or so just be mindful of that. So there's one. Another thing with that is be mindful who you allow into your space. I know a lot of people have house parties at their apartment, their condo, at their homes, and you want to be mindful of that, because you don't know who has what on them. I mean, Harlow would be like biting her arm. Thank you. You never know who has what on them. You don't know who's been working with what. And I mean, it's the risk you take when you have people over in your space, that you don't know what they're working with spiritually. You don't know if they have something attached to them. You don't know if they have the best intentions with you. So you definitely want to be mindful of who all you let into your space. Like, me personally, you guys, I've heard and seen of a lot of things with friends and family members and clients that I kind of became a little bit paranoid about that. Like, I do not like anyone in my house. Like, I really don't. So, like, when I would have to have, like, for example, if I've had to have, like, a mechanic come in, or someone to come in and repair something, like, the way I cleanse afterwards is crazy, because it's just like, I don't know you, and I don't know your intentions, and I don't know what you got on you, so let me hurry up and cleanse my space and get that energy out. So I'm very mindful of that, and very cautious of, okay, who's coming up in here. And something else is, when you go to other people's homes and other people's spaces, you want to be mindful of that too. Like, you want to cleanse your energy, because you don't know what they have up in their space. You don't know what's going on up in there. And as well as your workspace. If you know that you work somewhere where it's always chaotic, it's always drama, it's always negative, that's something else to be mindful of. At my old job, I used to have to spiritually cleanse that place so much, because it was so chaotic and hectic, and it was always some BS, always drama. And there was a spirit up there that there are a lot of people who felt like, yeah, there's definitely something here, and then there are a lot of people who were just so clueless to it and were like, yeah, right. But there's definitely a spirit there, and I had to close several times alone. I let that spirit know, look, I don't want any issues with you. I just came here to do my job and make my money. Like, just make my life easier. And let's just say I've seen some things happen up there where I'm just like, yup. So I would always like anoint and protect myself going up there, because like I said, it was always something going on. And then I would be mindful, like I need to cleanse my energy when I get home, so I'm not bringing any of that here. So just be mindful, you guys. Like, there are energies in buildings, in homes and spaces, like work environments, and so just be mindful when you go to certain places. Just be mindful of energy. You want to cleanse. And like I said, these places have energies, and there are sometimes spirits that's connected, attached to them or the land that they're on. And let's not forget to talk about like the actual earth spirits, like, you know, the actual, like the trees and the plants itself, or the animals that happen to frequent that the dwelling of that place. So I try to communicate with all the energies of my home, of my land, and of this property, and let them know, hey, like, you're all I know. I love you dearly. You've nurtured me, and you've helped me, you've taken care of me before my birth, and, you know, please continue to do so. You know, like, or I'm showing gratitude. And recently I've started giving offerings, like, to some of the trees in my backyard, because it just clicked to me, like, it's deeper than just the house itself. It's the actual land. It's the trees, the plants, you know, it's the animals that visit this land, you know. So like I said to some of you guys know this a little bit, but cats have always visited this property. And they've always, when I was a little girl, I remember being very young, they used to come to the backyard door and just watch. And I would just be like, Mom, there's a cat, you know, and just watching them. So I try to be kind, even though, you know, I hate saying it, but, you know, cats have fleas, and when you have dogs, it's just like a pain in the ass. But at the same time, it's like I try to be mindful. And now that I have Harlow, because Joe, he's a small dog, so he's not going to chase a cat, you know. He's a Maltipoo, but Harlow's a husky, and she wants to chase a cat. And I'm like, look, we don't hurt cats here, okay? I love me some Bastet. It's one of the first goddesses that I connected with and worked with. We don't harm cats here. We actually protect them, and we don't, you know, they're protectors. We don't harm them, babe. So I'm trying to teach her that, but I'm very big on honoring the property, the energies of the land, and the animals that visit this property. I had a dream. I remember when my mom had passed away. I remember I had this dream that there were 3 huge cats in one of my flower beds in the front of my house. It was like a tiger, a lion. It was very weird. I was like, how the heck do big cats fit there? And no lie, soon after that, I saw 3 domestic cats that were very similar in coloring to those big cats. And I just connected me once again, guardians. And when I was a little girl, I remember I had I would have like reoccurring visions of black, like, jaguars and panthers, and I always thought it was connected to the fact that there was a show on, I believe it was Disney Channel, it was called So Weird, and there was like a black panther jaguar in that show, or at least on one of the episodes. And I always thought that my subconscious mind, like, just programmed me with this cat. But as an adult, like, I just kept seeing that same image. And what's interesting is I used to be very much afraid of cats at one time in life. Like, I had a nightmare. It was because the cat in Alice in Wonderland used to scare the shit out of me, and still does a little bit. But I had a nightmare about cats. It was probably my first nightmare about cats. And then one of my mom's old friends used to have a bunch of cats, and they used to scare me. And then my cousin's ex-wife, she used to have this huge cat. And it just clicked to me that, like, they were guardians and protectors the whole time. And I didn't have a fear of them when they used to come to my backyard door. But for some reason, I had this fear, and then it went away. And then more over time, I just realized that they were guardians and protectors. So pay attention. Oh, and birds too. Also guardians, protectors, and messengers. Oh, and I forgot to say this. This is in regards to the last video I did where it talks about homes having energies and all of that. Not all of the, how do I say this? Not all spirits are bad, you guys. Some spirits are just stuck, like in the in-between. They're just trying to figure out how to transition and move on. So, like I said, some of them aren't for the best. Some of them just stuck, okay? So, it's important to keep that in mind and to be mindful. Like, keep that in mind and be mindful. Just be mindful of that. Like, you don't know if something happened in a house. You don't know if something happened in an apartment or in a condo or on that specific land. You don't know. I'm just saying, be mindful that not all of the spirits that could be lingering on a property or a land are bad. They could just simply be stuck. And if you are in an apartment or in a home or condo and there is a spirit there, and I mean, you have to have strong discernment and strong intuition, or work with someone who's gifted to, or really gifted, because I feel like we're all gifted, really tapped into mediumship to help you with this. But I strongly feel that there's some spirits that they don't mean any harm. They're just stuck there. They have some type of attachment to the property or something that happened to them in that property. So that's where you either need to figure out a way to cleanse and get them to move out of that energy, like to say, hey, this is my property, like you are not welcomed here. If they're negative, if it's a low vibrational energy spirit, you definitely want to do a spiritual cleanse either way of the space, of yourself. Bless the home, anoint the home. And spiritual cleanses there are different levels to it, okay? Because some people feel like sage is the strongest, and that's not the case. Just saging isn't always what's going to do the trick. Some people think, well, you just run through with sage and it'll be fine, and that's not always the case. Some spirits are very strong and they have very strong attachments to certain properties. So you may need more than some sage. You may need a floor wash. You may need to you might need to wipe down the walls. You may need to go around the whole land, with sage and holy water and holy oil, blessing, anointing the home, praying 23rd Psalms, playing high frequency music. You may have to do Reiki on the home, hun. Like, there is a lot of things that may be needed to try to cleanse or shift the energy of a space. But even within that, if you notice there is still a spirit that is lingering in that house, it just goes to tell you, like, to show you that there's something significant that happened there, or that spirit has a significant attachment to that home. And so this is why it's important to know the history of the land you're living on, the history of the property if you can. Even if you live in an apartment, you want to know. Like, it's important to know if someone died on your property. It's important to know if the original homeowner, committed, or if something happened to them. Like, it's important to know these things so that you can know what's happening, like the background, the energy, the energy history of the space. So if the spirit is not leaving at their huge cleanses and you telling it to leave it, and the other thing is, some people just like the sage and think that that's just going to cleanse the space itself. You need to speak to those spirits and ask them to leave. No, not ask. Command them to leave. This is my space. I need you to get out of here. I need you to leave. Open the doors. Like, there's a way of you have to kind of, I hate to say it, but you have to dominate your space. You have to make it known that this is my space. But if that spirit is still not leaving, then this is where you really got to get real. You're really going to have to up your protection game, your spiritual hygiene, and stay consistent with the spiritual hygiene of that space. And also, you're going to have to communicate. And, and I kind of was nervous to put this out here because you have some people who just willy-nilly go and start doing stuff like this. But, like, just without, doing things the right way, properly. But you're going to have to talk to that spirit and say, listen, I don't mean you any harm. I don't know, I don't know your background or what happened to you, but you're free from this space. You are free to move on. I ask that you move on. I don't have any ill will or harm towards you or the space, but this is my home now. This is my property now, and I tend to take care of it and nurture it, and I would like to have my privacy. So I'm asking that you move on, that you're free to go on. And you can see what happens from there on. I've heard different things. Like I said, I've helped a family member escort spirits out of her space, and let's just say it was a fight. It was a fight for that to happen. There were multiple spirits. But some of them simply just have attachment to the space. Now, even with that being said, what I just said there, that's light. Because some spirits will hear that and be like, this is my space. What are you talking about? I'm not going anywhere. And that's where it gets tricky. Some of them will listen to you. And I hate to say this, but sometimes people just get comfortable knowing, okay, well, this is my house, and there's a spirit that also dwells here, but we're on good terms, so don't pay them any mind. There are people who live like that for decades in homes, in properties, because the spirit just wouldn't move on. Now, I know that sounds weird, but there's a way to go about that, where, you just create peace, like there's some sort of agreement where it's like that spirit is not going to cross the line. And to be honest with you, there are a lot of people who live in homes now where there's been a spirit there the whole time, they just didn't know it. And it's like the spirit is just a guardian of the land, guardian of that home, of that foundation. So it's really tricky, you guys. This one it's not a black or white situation. There are some people who have been very successful at getting spirits to cross over and move on without, staying attached. But then there are some situations where it's like there's a mutual respect that this spirit was here before, and they have a strong connection to the home, and maybe they built the home. You don't know, but they have a strong connection, and then you make peace with the fact that, okay, as long as you're not going to harm me or my family or my pets, then it is what it is. Some people are able to live with that and deal with that and be fine, but for some people, it's too spooky for them, and they'll either move because they're scared, or they're, or they'll try to do, more cleanses to try to see if it'll leave. But to be honest with you, there are some spirits that will they're strong and they may not leave. So there's that. But there's levels and layers to this. Like there are spirits that are just attached to land and properties, and then there are spirits that somehow get stuck or brought to a space because they are attached or stuck to a person, or energies and entities that aren't the positive because they were stuck or attached to a person that you invited in your space or something you brought in. So just be mindful of that you need to get that energy out for sure. But I mean, I'm not going into this too deeply, but because it's a tricky subject. But stay up on your spiritual hygiene and cleanses of your home. Seriously, that's it. That's a really strong and important message. And for some reason, as I'm sharing all this, it makes me think of Lake. What's that lake? Is it Lanier? And how it used to be a town. It's an underwater town, where they killed a lot of African Americans. You think all those spirits are bad? Or are they just trying to hold on to what they have? Are they trying to bring awareness to what happened to them? And maybe when people go to that lake, it's seen as disrespect. Maybe. Who knows? But it's another conversation. But it makes me think of that, once again, property, land, that has history to it. I feel like that's a whole segment there, because there's other places that are like this.